What was the dumbest way someone has died that you've heard about? My friend's cousin. Him and his friend were bored one day, so they decided to have a gun fight. He got shot in the head. They were 16. The first man to go over the Niagara Falls in a barrel and survive, later died due to complications from slipping on a banana peel. I read about a guy who died after falling from a balcony at a drunken party. The next night, another guy fell to his death from the same balcony while demonstrating for friends how the guy had fallen the previous night. Like, he was walking along the railing, like this. I'm a plumber, and someone who worked for my company died about 7 years ago on the job. Coworker went on a service call and ended up having to grind out some old cast iron pipe and replace with PVC. The homeowner neglected to mention he makes fireworks in his spare time and had a faint barrel of gunpowder in the same room as the pipe. Sparks were flying and some landed on the gunpowder, blowing up my coworker and the homeowner. Both dead on sight. I still remember this, almost 30 years later. On September 6, 1995, outside of Talladega, Alabama, two drunk rednecks thought it would be fun to toss a rattlesnake back and forth between them by its tail. Not liking the game, the snake let both of them have it. 35-year-old Joe Buddy Kane lost his life in this pursuit, while his companion, Junior Bright, had to be hospitalized. Junior Bright. The most perfect name possible for this kind of story. I remember reading an article about a Japanese man who constantly got tickets for not wearing his seatbelt, so he made a fake seatbelt that he wore while driving to avoid the tickets. He died in a car accident that would have been a minor accident if he was wearing his real seatbelt. Witnessed firsthand, forklift slipped off a ramp and crushed someone. The driver was okay. Not mentally, but he walked away with minor bruises. The poor crushed idiot ran towards the falling forklift as if he could stop it from falling. Great-granddad. Died early on the morning on May 9, 1945, by falling over the walls of his barracks in France after sneaking past the MPs, blind drunk, because he was celebrating VE Day the night before. Egypt survived the entire war and broke his neck before getting sent home. Edit, IIRC, I think he was a chef or something. And our grandmother remembers her mum, his wife, not grieving but just being absolutely raging at him for the rest of her life, because he left her with about 7 kids. I don't think she ever even visited his grave, in France. I think taking a selfie with a bear, or while hanging over a cliff, will take the prize. Though, personally, I saw a girl die car surfing, which is pretty damn stupid. She was 16 for Christ's sake. There was a guy in my province who died by sofa sledding. By sofa sledding, I mean they tie a sofa behind a car/truck and drag it around with someone on the sofa. I know people can get bored in the more remote region of my province, but video game consoles exist. This one guy from my village. It's his birthday and they're at a restaurant, suddenly started choking on his food, all his friends began to panic, just for him to start laughing. He thought it was funny. He died the next course choking on a piece of meat. He died in the presence of his friends and family, who were ignoring him, thinking it was another prank. That high school kid that jumped off the cruise ship on a dare. I'm always amazed by folks who die in car accidents, because their GPS told them to drive where they shouldn't, like off a closed bridge or even a cliff, and they just followed directions and never questioned it. Steve Jobs listened to everyone but his doctors in dealing with his rare curable pancreatic cancer, and it killed him. A teen girl took an entire 24-pack of Panadol to get her boyfriend's attention after he dumped her. Parents found out, and the next day she was at the hospital feeling fine but miserable that it didn't get the reaction she wanted. Doctors told her to say goodbye to everyone, because she would be dead in 2 weeks from catastrophic organ failure. Nothing anyone could do for her. The guy who bought the rights to the Segway fell off a cliff to his death after accidentally rolling backwards on his Segway. Jumping off a speeding boat for TikTok clout. The kid who ate a slug on a dare, got infected with the rat lungworm parasite which infected his brain, went into a coma, woke up a year later completely paralyzed, then died. Friend of mine, about 15 years ago, got all boozed up and thought it would be a good idea to climb on the roof of a bicycle parking lot and grab the electric wire of the train tracks. My favorite is the inventor of the parachute, was so confident in his calculations, that he didn't test it with a dummy but tested it himself, promptly descended too rapidly and died on impact. Turns out he hadn't factored the weight of the parachute material into his calculations. Waving a big tall metal Dale Earnhardt flag pole at the Talladega Superspeedway and getting it tangled up in power lines. Top of the list is a teacher who attached wires from an electric blanket to himself to supposedly test pain tolerance. No idea if that's the real story, but he had apparently told people about it. He electrocuted himself. Second is the son of a friend's sister. He and his brother imagined themselves to be big-time gangsters. They stole a lawnmower from a neighbor who saw them and then drove to their home and took it back. They hopped in their car and drove back to his house to confront him for disrespecting them. He ran the brothers off by brandishing a firearm. They went home and got a baseball bat to show him who the real tough guys are. They went back, threatened the man, and he shot one of them in the leg. They ran to their car, gathered some courage, then went to confront the man again. This time one brother got a bullet to the eye and the other got one in the shoulder. One died and the other has a limp and can't throw a ball anymore. Apparently my sister's Mill's father died setting himself on fire accidentally trying to start a bonfire. A young guy in my hometown got hit by a train when he tried to cross the rails on his dirt bike. What's special about it? The track was almost not used, there were like 5 connections per day going there. On top of that, a train station was really close to that unfortunate place and trains were still running relatively slow. This is kind of an indirect death. A close friend and her husband were out walking their dog in the neighborhood like they'd done 1,000 times. The dog jerked his leash and the husband lost his footing and fell against a tree. My friend kept saying, "Come on, quit clowning around and get up." Well, he had broken his neck and was completely paralyzed. He spent about a week in the hospital going through test after test. He was fully conscious and aware, but could only communicate through blinking and could not even breathe on his own. When all his tests came back that he would never recover use of the rest of his body, he chose to have the plug pulled on himself. A 20-year-old driving and teenagers throwing rocks at her car killing her. You can do everything right and this happens to you. Darwin Awards cover that pretty well. One I remember is a robber who pulled the pin of a grenade, just put that thing in his pocket and leave. Asian dude crawled into a septic tank underneath a woman's house so he could watch her pee. Couldn't turn his body back around and got stuck and died. Woman notices an extra foul smell a week later and they find his corpse. Edit adding Google search, mysterious death in female toilet, Fukushima, Japan. Paying $250,000 to get sealed into a tube that is advertised as unregulated.